It's time for RealAg Radio on Rural Radio Channel 147 on Sirius XM. RealAg Radio and RealAgriculture.com is your home for insight and analysis of the issues that are impacting your farm business. Let's get real and get connected with RealAg Radio. Welcome to RealAg Radio here on Rural Radio 147, Sirius XM. Shaun Haney, your host, of course, here on this Tuesday edition of the show. Hey, thanks so much, everybody, for making RealAg Radio and Rural Radio 147 a big part of your workday. We greatly appreciate it. Love bringing this program every day. And also want to give a big shout out to everybody listening out there on the RealAg Radio podcast. Well, today we're going to dive into a number of topics. I'm going to skip ahead here. I'm really looking forward to bringing you a discussion all about the Farmall tractor. New book out, Farmall Century. And we're going to be able to talk today to the author of that book. And it's kind of special. Klancher is his name. And, I just love the sentimental, emotional connection that farmers have to tractors that they've grown up with. We could debate whether or not some of those same emotions connect today. I think there's reasons why they don't. But when we think about the past and the role the Farmall played on farms across North America, we're going to have some fun today talking to Klancher. So stay tuned for that. And we also posted a video version of our interview on our YouTube channel and at RealAgriculture.com. It's got some great photos there as well. So please check out that video. You're going to enjoy the discussion today. We're also going to talk today to Peggy Brekveld. She is a farmer from Thunder Bay, Ontario, and she is the chair of CARC. And CARC focuses and hones in on human resource issues in the Canadian market. And they've got a new report coming out, and it shows some pretty big gaps between what employers on the farm need versus the supply of labor. I think it's like a 7.4% vacancy rate. It's above average from an industry comparison perspective. In 2022, this gap cost the industry $3.5 billion. Billion with a B, $1 billion. That'll grab your attention. And that may be chump change to some, maybe a country, but to an industry in a country of 30 million people or 35 million or 40 million people, whatever we are now in Canada, this is significant. It's huge. So we'll talk to Peggy Brekveld today. We're also going to have some results for you from the Canadian Farmer Sentiment Index. The October results are out, and I'm going to give you some of the highlights today, what stuck out to me. And, of course, as well, we have a full breakdown of those results if you go to RealAgriculture.com or check out the Real Agriculture YouTube channel. We'll also have some time today for the top ag news stories of the day. Some not very good, I think there's some not good news for some of the plant proteins and as well EVs. So we'll pick on those two today in the top ag news stories of the day. If you have any feedback on today's show, we'd love to hear from you. There's lots of ways to get a hold of us. You can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also find us across all the different social media platforms, or you can always call that RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. We are just a couple days away from leaving for Hanover, Germany to go to Agritechnica. Myself and the team are flying out Thursday night. Okay, so we're getting closer to it. I'm really looking forward. I won't be on Friday's show. Maybe I'll try to call in if I can. I'm going to try. I may try to call in, but not planned to be on Friday's show. Lindsay will be the host. But I'm really looking forward. Sunday, we are hitting the ground, and we'll be at the show on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And if you are going to be at the show, make sure you reach out to me. There's always like some Canadian groups that get together, some American farmers that'll make the trip over as well. So if you do want to maybe connect or tell me something that you saw on the ground, that would be great. And we'll try to get it covered for sure. And of course, our coverage of Agritechnica at Real Agriculture is brought to you by Optimum Gly, new canola trait technology from Corteva Agriscience. Okay, let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to talk about farm labor and the shortage that exists. And is there anything that we can actually do about it? You're listening to RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147.
What's next for your fields? At Pioneer, delivering industry-leading genetics drives everything we do. From the scientists in the lab to our local teams with boots on the ground. We are determined to get there first. Developing top-performing products, proven in more growing conditions than ever before. Pioneer. What's next happens here. Visit pioneer.com/Canada to learn more.
Canola is more than just a pretty face in the prairie landscape. It's a big business, both here and around the world, that requires you to be informed and up to date on everything it takes to grow a successful crop. The Canola School on RealAgriculture.com has an expert library of video resources covering markets, agronomy, and more to help you grow a healthy and profitable canola crop. Visit canolaschool.com today. Brought to you by BASF Canada and Invigor Hybrid Canola.
When it comes to your farm, you demand performance, because what goes in determines what comes out. At Pride Seeds, we deliver on performance. With best-in-class corn hybrid seed, you'll see results when it comes to premium yield in all the ways that matter. Moisture, nutrition, dollars per acre, and of course, tonnage. So discover your farm's advantage, the Pride Seeds advantage. Visit your local dealer or prideseeds.com today.
Welcome back to RealAg Radio. This segment is brought to you by Alliance Seed and CDC Endure Oats. Top yields, excellent disease resistance, and the quality end users ask for, all in one great oat variety. CDC Endure is available through Alliance Seed authorized retailers. Find out more by going to allianceseed.com. Well, no secret to any of you, it's hard to find people to work on the farm. And we all know this. And a new study really brings some quantitative data to this subject. And I'll tell you what, it doesn't seem like it's getting any better. We're talking right now to Peggy Brekveld. She is the chair of the Canadian Agricultural Human Resource Council. I'll probably refer to it as CARC from this point forward. Don't need to say that tongue twister. Peggy, great to see you again.
Great to be here.
Okay, Peggy, this was a report that was done by the Conference Board of Canada. What were the findings?
You know, it's very reflective of your opening comments. We've, for a long time, and it continues to be, that we suffer a shortage of labor, kind of severe and kind of chronic. The challenges are there, and right now it looks like more than 28,000 jobs were estimated to have gone unfilled in 2022, and it looks like that's going to continue to increase. And so the report, Sowing Seeds of Change, is looking at what the statistics are, making some projections, and then also giving some ideas of how we can continue to actually improve the numbers or make it better.
Now, the report's findings were that the cost here to the industry, it's a big number. We were talking about it on RealAg Radio last week, that these vacancies are costing the industry $3.5 billion in 2022. The industry has an above average vacancy rate of 7.4%. Those numbers grab your attention.
They do. The vacancy rate of 7.4% is actually above the Canada-wide vacancy rate, which is 5.9. That's also high, but agriculture, the sector itself, is higher than average. What it looks like on the ground is 2 out of every 5 agriculture employers couldn't hire all the workers that they wanted, and so you see lost in sales. And it's about 3.7% lost sales. That's pretty significant. That is room for improvement. And so there's this desire to improve what agriculture's image is and how we bring employees to work, and even embracing involving automation and technology. as an answer.
Yeah. Well, it's a multi-pronged approach. Like, it's that is a good reality, or the real reality, I guess. So I guess, is there certain areas of agriculture that are more impacted than others? Like when you say lost sales, I right away think about, the horticulture industry, fruit and veg, mushroom farmers, those kinds of areas of ag. Is that who's most impacted here?
Yeah, so that was one of the interesting numbers, is that we saw that continued challenges in horticulture, and the challenges there are real and have been real for a long time. What we saw is more adoption of temporary foreign workers, and in those sectors that's been common for a long time. But what's more common now is this growth in foreign worker unemployment in poultry, egg, dairy, swine. Those types of industries, those year-long type positions. It's agriculture really has a desire to hire Canadians, but when that doesn't work, then we have to look for other solutions, and sometimes that is foreign workers coming from other places.
Is there at all concern from CARC's perspective? There's changing attitudes in Canada about immigration policy in Canada, and that's really being driven a little bit, I would say mostly by the housing crisis. Is there a concern that this situation could actually get worse if some of the attitudes and policies around immigration change in Canada?
Foreign workers are going to be needed in agriculture for a long time. We know that there's such a shortage in employment and employees that we have to look for other resources. We are a big industry, $38.8 billion in gross domestic product, 1.9% of the national GDP, and we rank as the world's largest exporters at $9.2 billion in exports. It's a huge industry, but in the end, we need workers, and we need to attract workers. So it's a multi-pronged approach, like you said earlier. It's looking at immigration, it's looking at temporary foreign workers of various kinds, but it's also seeking workers in equity, diversity groups, and also embracing that automation and technology. All of those pieces will get us to where we need to be. We can't continue to see that lack of sales or lost sales that we saw in 2022. We want to improve those numbers. I think that there is room for foreign workers to come and work on our farms. I think that we have a responsibility to house them and employ them and treat them like we would anyone else. And so I think there's this, it will be a challenge, but we have to find an answer also to how do we grow food and how do we harvest food.
Was there any why, like when we talk about that vacancy number of 7.4%, was there some findings around why we're higher than some of the industry averages?
I think we do know that we actually have even a reluctance to respond to ads. So one of the findings had to do with discovering that a large percentage, I think it was 30% of ads are actually not even answered, that we don't even have people applying to the job. Another large percentage is receiving only one or two applications, and that's concerning. We want to see more people see agriculture as a place to work and grow. Outside of CARC's work, I actually saw a video not just the last couple of days. If you type in "this is agriculture," there's one that promotes jobs. It comes from the UK, and it talks about how fast moving and innovative agriculture is, just with pictures, no words. It's partly about a perception of what agriculture is. And so if we can encourage people to see agriculture as driven and innovative in not just the farmer place, but in all those associated jobs, we can make such a difference and really drive interest in an amazing sector.
Oh, there's so much happening in our industry.
There is.
I was saying on RealAg Radio last week, I was telling a story about how I went to a ceremony at the University of Lethbridge, and I sat with the associate dean and the dean of the Faculty of Management at the University of Lethbridge, and they were talking about they're running some ag programs, and when they talk to students that are maybe in the management faculty about, hey, there's an opportunity in agriculture, and this isn't about like working on farms. This is like working in the industry side of the industry. And there's like kind of blank stares back. Like, why would I work in agriculture? We got some branding. We got some branding issues to sort out here. We had it far easy for far too long, just tapping into farm kids, and we gotta expand our tentacles a little bit.
Yeah, the skills and abilities that people can use in agriculture is pretty fascinating. I feel like I'm talking to the converted, but I really do. I want people that are looking at accounting, that they say, well, there's jobs in rural Canada or in farming. I want people that are in HR to look at the ability to work on operations that are large and have the need for an HR specialist. I'm hoping that people that are into computer and technology that can program the lasers on the milk robots will consider that that's a place to be and to do things. Yeah. So it's one of the answers. Again, there are a few different ways. One is including that automation. One is encouraging more people to check us out. One is about immigration and equity deserving groups and reaching out to new places to find people, not just our farm kids. And one is really improving the perception of this sector. It's a great place to be.
Now, you're going to be sharing more details from this report here in the coming weeks. Is that the case, and what can we expect?
Yeah, I believe you're going to see, again, that push towards what can we do next to make it better. Right now, the National Workforce Strategic Plan is being worked on with Food and Beverage Canada. And so there's these synergies happening already to ensure that we are moving forward. We want to change that number. We want to stop it from that decline in sales and that decline in or that growing vacancy rate. We want to fix those numbers and see them be better. And best way to do that is as a community.
Yeah, well put. Peggy, thanks a lot for joining us here today. Really, really appreciate it. And we look forward to more results coming out of this report. And it's great to have some numbers behind a lot of the anecdotes that we hear from our audience. So thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We got to sort this out. We've identified the problem. I've been doing this job long enough that this problem hasn't changed. In fact, it's getting worse. We have to take the steps required to make this change, to make this industry attractable to people that are outside of it. It's a key. It is a key. The other piece of this, okay, and I've said this before, is also the change that has to happen is our industry is going to have to up its training game and its ability to bring people into the industry that didn't grow up in it, instead of thinking, well, that person didn't grow up in the industry. That is a negative. We're going to need these people, or else we have got major problems at the farm gate level, in the C-suite level, and everywhere in between. Okay? But Peggy did mention automation, robots, AI, that plays a part. It's a multi-pronged approach here, for sure. Okay, when we come back on RealAg Radio, we're going to hit on some of the highlights of the Canadian Farmer Sentiment Index for October and find out how you feel about things in the go forward. You're listening to RealAg Radio, Rural Radio 147.
If I asked you, what's the most important tool on your farm? You'd probably think of tractors, trucks, and implements first. But it's actually something much bigger than that. Your soil is the most important equipment you own. The real question is, are you doing enough to keep it running at peak performance? Nutrien Smart Nutrition MAP plus MST is engineered with patented micronized sulfur technology to refuel your soil for maximum yields. Learn how to tune up your soil at smartnutritionmst.com.
Before you get back in the field this year, spend some time with the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com. Get all the information you need on hybrid selection, planting depth, crop inputs, and more from a wide range of industry experts. A massive library of video content is available on demand when you need it most. Spend your time outside of the field, inside the classroom, with the Corn School on RealAgriculture.com.
Whether you're a rookie soybean grower or a seasoned vet, the Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com has exactly what you need to stay in the game. The latest research and the best agronomic advice from industry experts, along with local and global market coverage on demand, anywhere, anytime. Make this growing season your best growing season with the Soybean School on RealAgriculture.com.
Co-ops Grown with Purpose recognizes how your farm brings sustainability, agronomics, and safety to our food, community, and environment. What you do matters. Make it count. Contact your local co-op Grow Team member to learn more. Okay, let's dive in right now to the results of the October Canadian Farmer Sentiment Index. This is an index we've been doing now for 13 months. And we look at how you, the Canadian farmer, your attitudes, your feelings, your outlook on a number of different issues, financially related, broader from an industry perspective, as well as even things about the commodity market and even a question about your mental health. And Justin Funk and me, we're partners in RealAgri Studies, which is the market research arm of RealAgriculture. We did a whole respondent video that for the farmers that completed the survey. You can find that at realagriculture.com. or for sure on our YouTube channel, okay? And what I wanted to do here is kind of hit some of the highlights for you to give a bit of a sneak peek. And for our American listeners, this is kind of runs parallel, kind of a mirror to the CME Purdue Ag Barometer that you're very, very familiar with. And sometimes it's interesting to do some of those comparisons between the two. So when we ask farmers about their current farm financial performance and their future farm financial performance, so what's happening now from a financial perspective and what's happening what do they expect 12 months out? Here's what's interesting. Current farm financial performance continues to slide. It started at the high for the last 12 months last January, and since last January across Canada, across all the different farm types, all shapes and sizes, it has slid. Remember, 100 is neutral, above 100 is positive, below 100 is negative sentiment. Right now we're at 90. Okay, so we're just below neutral. When we think about future farm financial performance, it's been not as much on the downward trend. It's actually been what I would call more stable, flatlined, but we have seen a bit of a bump up here, a little bit above the trend line to 89. Okay, so we've got current farm financial performance at 90, future farm financial performance at 89. That's also negative sentiment at below 100. So the full scale here is 0 to 200. Here's what's interesting. Throughout the last 13 months that we have been doing the Canadian Farmer Sentiment Index, the current farm financial performance is always higher than the future. So Canadian farmers much more positive, relatively speaking, about the current farm financial environment versus what they expect to happen in the future. That's been the case. What has happened though in the last, basically since January, is we've continued to close the gap. Right now, farmers feel the same about their current farm financial performance as they do the future. And this is the first time ever in the last 13 months that has been the case. Okay. Also, Canadian farmers pretty negative in the sentiment area when it comes to optimism towards the Canadian ag economy and the future of the Canadian ag industry. So for the optimism towards the future Canadian ag economy, farmers saying 70. That's virtually unchanged from July when we did the survey the last time. Future of Canadian ag industry. So this is basically asking, will the next 5 years be widespread good times or bad times? 74. And this is interesting to me. And it's always been negative. 74 is kind of in the mid-range of where we've been in the last 13 months. We had a high in January of 85, and we had a low in July of 62. So now we're at 74. Okay. So when we ask farmers in the next 5 years, will we have widespread good times or bad times? That's a pretty significant negative number. Like 5 years is a long time. I think there's reasons. Personally, I would have said good times. I think about it in context to other industries. Like think about what's going on in the restaurant industry right now, as an example, right? So that's pretty fascinating to me that there's that level of negativity towards the next 5 years. Okay, but hey, this is like 650 farmers that have answered this across the country. So you guys know better than I do. Okay. If you have any thoughts on why you're negative towards the next 5 years or why you're not, you can send me that email, shaney@realagriculture.com. Here's what's also interesting. Confidence in marketing crops. So this is not which direction do I think the market's going. This is, do I have confidence in my marketing plan? Do I have a clue what I'm doing? And I'll tell you what, I'm not sure I would say I would, but the rating came back, the index came back at 91, unchanged since July. I think that's okay. Like it's negative, but this is a very, very tough environment. And we've been relatively stable. In the last 13 months, we had a high, actually September of 22 at 104. We continued to slide down to May, where we hit a low of 79, and now we're at 91 for the last 2 months. Okay, so farmers have felt a little bit of a hilly sort of ride when it comes to their confidence in marketing their crops. Should I hold? Just confidence in marketing their crops. I'm getting ahead of myself. When it comes to should I hold or should I sell? Okay, those crops. That's the roller coaster. We have been everywhere. We have been to the Arctic and all the way down to South America. We are all over the place. We had a high in July of 138, all-time high. Now we're down to 115. So farmers still bullish. More farmers thinking that this is a time to hold than sell. Okay. But back in May, it was a 70. Okay. So we went from 70 in May, doubled it to 138 in July, and now we've pulled back to 115. One comment I would make is I think the farmer overall, in general, is more bullish than some of the analysts. A lot of the analysts, as you've been hearing on this show, quite negative on what this market outlook kind of is right now, based on some of the fundamentals and concerns about demand and all of those kinds of things. And hey, it takes both sides of a trade to make a market. The farmers very well may be right here. I don't know. I don't know. The question is not about being right or wrong. It's tying those two together. Which direction do I think the market's going, and do I have a marketing plan for that? Okay, that's why these two questions really tie together. When it comes to state of mental health, very flat. So this is what we ask people. Okay, what is the status of your mental health in comparison to 12 months ago? Better, worse, same as. We're a 95. Here's the positive here. Okay. There's a lot of people that are unchanged in this. And the other thing is, think about the prior comment about outlook on selling crops and current farm financial performance. As we've seen current farm financial performance outlook deteriorate, we've seen the roller coaster of outlook on selling crops, mental health, and how people feel about themselves has continued to stay stable. I think that is a win. So that's the highlights for farmers in terms of the Canadian Farmer Sentiment Index. Thanks to everybody that completed the survey. We had 640 farmers complete it. Make sure you check out realagristudies.com to find out more about the RealAg Insights panel. If you have any questions about any of those results, make sure you reach out to me, shaney@realagriculture.com. And we do have a broader video posted at YouTube with the high-level results, kind of Justin and I breaking it down. But I thought I'd just give you a bit of a sneak peek here based on what some of my takeaways were on the October results. And we'll survey again in January. Looking forward to see how that changes. Okay, when we come back on RealAg Radio, we're going to learn all about the last century of the Farmall tractor. It's a pretty cool story. New book out, and we'll talk to the author right after this.
Are you concerned about the continuing rise of input costs and your increasing risk to plant a crop? My name's Paul Sinkovich, President at Vantage Ag. We believe that the days of placing all of your fertilizer needs at seeding time and hoping for a crop are behind us. Join us at AgriTrade in Red Deer, November 9th, as we are hosting an information meeting to showcase how our new nano-liquid fertilizer technology will reduce your risk. Call 778-919-3370 to reserve your seat today.
As you look ahead to the next growing season, there's a lot to consider when it comes to your crop. You need every possible advantage available to you. The Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com has everything you need to make the best choice for you and your farm. On-demand videos with leading industry experts available anywhere, anytime. Go into the season confident and ready with the Pulse School on RealAgriculture.com.
Well, there's a lot of historic tractors that everybody has a fondness for. And everybody has a brand and a color that they're really, really particular to. One of those brands is the Farmall tractor. And there's a new book out that really captures the history of the Farmall tractor that many of you are familiar with. The book is entitled Farmall Century, and we are joined right now by the author of that book that is just out freshly here this past October. It is Lee Klancher. Lee, great to chat with you.
Great to be on, Shaun. Always good to talk about my book.
Yeah, well, hey, congratulations on the book. I know that you've been very successful in copies ordered, and this is really cool because, when I actually heard you first on RFT TV talking about the book. What is it about the Farmall tractor that made you write the book in the first place?
Oh my. I mean, really the Farmall tractor is one of the most significant tractors of the 20th century, arguably the most. So that certainly was the starting point. But this anniversary was also a chance for us to put a bookend. We've got 3 other books that sort of cover the history of IH and Case IH equipment up until the modern day from about 57. And we hadn't really done the early stuff. So we started with the modern stuff because that was where the hole in the market is. But this is now the 4th volume. We sort of completed our set of telling the history of these machines from, basically the 1880s up until today.
So what is it about the Farmall tractor that made it, as you described, one of the most significant tractors of the last 100 years?
It's shockingly simple, but it was a big deal back then. It was the first tractor that could plow, turn a belt, and cultivate. And so it was just that tall back wheels in the back and the tricycle in the front that allowed the tractor to go down the row and cultivate. But prior to that time, no tractor, period, could do all those 3 things. So it always meant that you were either buying this heavy, expensive thing to plow with, and then these weird little things called motor cultivators, which really didn't work to cultivate. This was a machine that could do all 3, and all of a sudden you're like, all right, I can buy that, and I'm good. I can take my horses and use them less or, eventually replace them.
Yeah, what were the horsepower ranges?
These were 1020s, so they were, and interestingly, IH did not rate horsepower for these, and this started a whole thing they carried through the letter series where they said it's a 2-plow tractor. They didn't want to put numbers on it, but It made about 20 horsepower at the drawbar and 10 horsepower 20 at the belt, 10 at the drawbar.
Okay, and based on the significance and its uniqueness, any idea, like at the height, what the market share was in this tractor range? Like how big of it? How
dominant were they?
Yeah.
Those numbers are on the books because we looked at it, and it's not as simple as you'd think. Once they buried the Fordson, so you have to remember that the Fordson came out, and the Fordson upended everything, right? And Fordson had, I think, 40 to 50% of the market for a while. It might have even been more of that. IH, once they got the Fordson out, IH was in the 40 to 50% range. Now, that would slide over the years. The competition stiffened up. But they had a very high share for a while. Now, it wasn't just the Farmall, obviously. The McCormick Deering 1020, they sold a lot of those. And they had another line of tractors that sold pretty well. But they really, really dominated for a while. But the big thing was the significance of it. Once that thing came out, everybody was scrambling to have something competitive.
Very, very, very cool. And I guess technically, correct me if I'm wrong here, my understanding is the Farmall is still made today.
The brand lives on.
Okay,
yes.
Okay, that's a good way to put it. Okay.
The brand lives on. The brand went away for a while. So, and International Harvester was fascinating with brands. When they were formed by 5 major companies in 1902. They kept all 5 brands. And in fact, there was probably at least a dozen brands within those 5 companies, and they were very independent. So that company to this day has a lot of brands. Today, there's Steiger, there's Case IH, there's Magnum, there's a number of things. So in the 70s, they sort of phased Farmall out. Farmall moved, Farmall was the primary brand for their agricultural cultivating tractors for quite a few years. And then they started putting it on faceplates, and there'd be a Farmall version that was for cultivating, and an International that was more of a plow tractor. Yeah. And then in the mid 70s, Farmall sort of slipped out of the wayside, and the actual date is kind of fuzzy. In the 2000 era, they brought it back. I think it was 2003, and they put it on their line of compact tractors. And today those tractors, first they were very, very small. They've gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. I think they go up to 180, 170 horsepower, somewhere in that range today. So Farmall does live on, but it was the premier brand in 1922 and in 1950, and then it sort of changed over the years.
I would have to imagine, and you've done, like you said, there's numerous. You've been doing a lot of work on the Case IH brands of tractors. I would imagine that you get some because farmers they have I always find they have stories about their tractors, right? Mm-hmm. Like there's always, it's so funny you brought up that tractor, that model, because I remember my dad. There's always stories, or my grandpa, or those kinds of things. For me, it's I can think of tractor having around the John Deere 4020, and my grandpa. Those 2 things are kind of attached. So I would imagine you've had some great stories come out. People that have bought your books in the past, and including this one, and shared some stories with you. It's just funny how emotionally attached we are to certain models of tractors.
There are, and there's really 2 things. I'd say when we did the first red tractors, one of the things we did was put every single model. There a lot of books had been done on IH, and they always sort of had a smattering. We had, I think, 750 models we identified that was models and variants, so that you could open that book and find Grandpa's tractor. And when I took the book, I literally had, you get advance copies from the press early. And I was out on some shoots, and I had a couple. And I just started showing people. And they would page through, find the family tractor, and tell me a story. And when that happened, and I saw it, I was like, I think I was right. I think this is going to be a hit. And it was. That book now has 100,000 copies in print in all editions. So very successful. But the other thing that's really amazing is how the stories of how the machines came to be sort of evolved because you get the book out there. So you get the book out there, and in one of the books, we had this wonderful story of Bud Ewell, who was a IH salesperson, a high-end sales exec, and very flashy, very colorful, fantastic storyteller. If he walked into a room, he blew the room up with his personality. Just amazing, amazing guy, amazing sales guy. Well, Bud heard that there was a new Deere coming out. And it was going to be introduced at the Superdome. I think it was the 55 series. I know it was in the early 1980s. So yep. Bud goes and finds himself a John Deere shirt and a John Deere hat, sneaks into the Superdome, and then watches, and there's a bar at the top, and he goes to the bar in his story and watches the proceedings until the Deere guys figure it out, send somebody up, and throw him out. Well, in the course of, we told that story, and that story was very popular, both in blogs and the book and everything, and very entertaining. Bud's, but John Deere, a guy from John Deere, said, I was there that day. And I've got a little bit different version of that story. And he told us the other side. And those that knew Bud and loved him Bud loved a good story, and Bud had no problem, bending things just a little bit. He was there. That was all true. He's wearing a John Deere cap, but there was some details. So in the John Deere book, we put the other guy's story. But there's a lot of that where a story will come out and then somebody will say, well, this was my experience, a little bit different. And the history just gets richer because of what's out there. It's really fun.
Yeah. And I think in today's world where, I think people are, well, there's a certain section of the farm community where they're trading more often, and they don't get as emotionally attached to models as maybe we did in an earlier time. But for you, this is the fourth book you've done on Case IH. What's your attachment or your personal story that has you so interested in this brand of tractor?
What got me here was really my grandfather, and I'll tell you why. I grew up on a farm, but I was a teacher's kid, and it was a working farm, so I was around farms and equipment. And I love machines. I'm particularly motorcycles and cars, anything fast I liked. But tractors to me were always, machines I was around. I got an assignment to go take pictures of Farmall tractors when I was in my 20s. I just got out of college. And I was taking a shot of an old Farmall. I think it was I don't remember, it was old Farmall. And I got close, and the smell reminded me of my grandfather. My grandfather was a farmer. He always had the latest equipment. He was a machine head and innovator. And he and I really had a special connection. My dad really didn't care about cars and machines. He wanted to play baseball, but Grandpa did. And he and I are really connected on that. So that was kind of the personal connection. And then the more I researched this history and the more I learned about tractors, and I learned how much they've changed our society. I mean, if you're studying agriculture technology, you're really studying the evolution, of our society, the really rapid changes we've all experienced and that came before us. And that machine was a big piece of that. And so I really, really fell in love with that. I'm also a photographer, and outdoor photography is really, really where I cut my teeth there, and travel photography, and shooting farm tractors. You're outdoors most of the time. Now I've started doing some indoor crazy stuff with lighting, but I still love, being out there in the morning when the sun comes up and shooting that picture. It just a lot of the things that I love kind of came together. So, my story isn't traditional. I didn't grow up. I certainly grew up on tractors, but it wasn't that connection a lot of our readers have, which is from their butt in the machine. But it's a very deep connection nonetheless, and a history that I really love getting the privilege to chronicle.
Yeah, you mentioned that tractor seat. That's one thing that's gotten a lot more comfortable than some of those early Farmalls, is the kind of seat that people are sitting in today. And guess what? There's also a cab nowadays. All those comforts, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Lee, thanks so much for joining us. Congratulations again on the book. If somebody wants to order a copy, Lee, how do they do so? Where do they find it?
You can find the Farmall Century anywhere books are sold. You also can find it at your local Case IH dealership. A lot of them carry them. And go to our website, octanepress.com. We always have it, and we've got a lot of great other things that you can read and learn about if that's your thing.
Yeah, and it's not just a written book. There's a lot of pictures in the book, right?
Yes, the book is a big coffee table book, and the photography in particular is worth mention. For this, there was a lot of Farm Security Administration photographers, Dorothea Lange and others like that, really famous, some of the best photographers really in the 20th century, who chronicled what was going on the farm. And they photographed a lot of Farmalls. We dug up a lot of those images. Those images are just absolutely spectacular. They take you back to a different time. So yes, it's a very visual work. You can read it. I give you a lot to read, yep. But it's a big, beautiful work to look at.
Seems like a pretty good Christmas present for that farmer in your life, if you ask me. Lee, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it, and congratulations on the book, Farmall Century.
Thanks so much, Shaun. Always a pleasure.
The world needs more of what Canada grows. Join agriculture industry leaders from across the country, and internationally for that matter, at Grow Canada in Calgary from November 28th through the 30th. Great time to visit Calgary. A little bit quieter than the Stampede, not as hot, probably better hotel rates too, to be quite honest. Well, I know the hotel rates will be better. Visit growcanadaconference.ca to register now. And I'm looking forward to being at Grow Canada this year, where I'll be hosting a panel. It's going to be great, a 90-minute panel on Farming 4.0. Now, getting back to the discussion about Farmall Century, the book written by Lee Klancher, tell me your Farmall stories. Did you have a Farmall tractor? What did it mean to your family? What did it mean to the farm? And honestly, if you want to expand it and tell me a story about any tractor that you are fond of, and it's kind of that Mount Rushmore, it's on that list, tell me about it and why. Send me that email, shaney@realagriculture.com, and pick up Farmall Century as a Christmas gift for that Farmall lover in the family. Okay, when we come back on Real Ag Radio, we're going to get to the top ag news stories of the day right after this.
As a grower, you spend a lot of time focused on the details. And sometimes it's only after harvest that you can step back and see the bigger picture. At AGI, we spend a lot of time focused on details too, making sure you can store your grain how you need to and move it when you need to. Learn more at aggrowth.com.
Peter Johnson at WheatPete, RealAgriculture.com. I'm the host of The Word, and I love doing The Word. I love the questions. I love the challenges. I love having to apply agronomics to all over the globe and areas outside of my normal jurisdiction. Also, I love the feedback the most, where growers challenge me, tell me about their plot results, help me to learn. The Word, absolutely the best part of my day.
It's time for the top ag news stories of the day, brought to you by MNP. Are you seeking professional advice for your farm and business? MNP's team of agriculture specialists cover it all, from business planning and tax guidance to financial projections, farm succession, and risk management. Visit MNP.ca to connect with the experts today. Okay, let's dive into the top ag news stories of the day here. Lots happening. At the time of me putting the show together here, the vote has not happened yet in the Senate in terms of whether or not they're going to accept the Senate Ag Committee's amendments to Bill C-234. Of course, those amendments include buildings, the heating of buildings, barns, being pulled out of the exemption. So farm groups have been lobbying very hard for the Senate to reject the amendments. So this has been a real battle happening behind the scenes in Ottawa. Farmers have really been reaching out. Farm groups, individual farmers, really pushing the senators to do what farm groups believe is the right thing in the spirit of what 234 was all about. So we'll have more on that on tomorrow's show. Canada's trade surplus with the world increased more than expected to $2.04 billion in September as higher crude prices helped exports outpace a rise in imports, according to StatsCan. So analysts in our Reuters poll had forecast $1 billion surplus. Wow. They forecasted $1 billion, and we ended up at $2 billion. Well, I guess when we're talking about these big numbers, those kind of shifts can happen. But they also revised the August surplus up to $949 million from $718. Exports rose 2.7% in September and were 0.4% up on a volume basis as prices increased for the third consecutive month. Energy products led the gains, mainly due to the higher crude oil prices. That had to do by some of the voluntary production cuts by OPEC Plus, according to the Globe. And partly offsetting the gains, exports of metal and non-metallic minerals fell 10.7% in September from an all-time high in August. You know, as much as it sort of feels at times like this government poo-poos the energy sector, and we're trying to figure out ways to restrict it, and you know, some of those challenges, it is very important when it comes to our economic situation, our economic growth, our GDP, the jobs. It's like this uncomfortable truth for some people in Canada, and I don't understand why we people just can't recognize that. So real win there when it comes to the energy sector, when it comes to exports in September. 14 winners and 11 honorable mentions of the Ontario Excellence in Agriculture program were named this past weekend during an awards ceremony held in conjunction with the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair in Toronto. The Excellence in Agriculture program celebrates the work of individuals, businesses, and organizations across the province and supports a number of goals within the Grow Ontario strategy. Encourage you to check out that full list of winners and honorable mentions by going to RealAgriculture.com. Ag in the Classroom Canada has named Matthew Rouleau as Executive Director effective this week, actually as of yesterday. No stranger to the organization, Rouleau co-founded École au Champ. Of course, my French is not fantastic. I apologize. A nonprofit organization dedicated to agricultural education and Ag in the Classroom's member organization in Quebec. So he, no stranger to Ag in the Classroom. He's based in Quebec. Rouleau grew up on a dairy, grain, and maple syrup farm and holds Bachelor of Agricultural Economics, Agricultural Business, and Agronomy from McGill University. Could a simple practice that sees farmers move their cattle from grazing area to grazing area result in a healthier cattle and less pathogens that can cause human illness reaching our soil and waterways? Well, that's what a multidisciplinary research team from the University of Guelph hopes to find out in a first-of-its-kind multi-year study. The team wants to learn whether rotational grazing, a practice in which farmers move their herd between multiple fenced-off grazing areas every few days, some people call it advanced grazing, whether or not that's beneficial to the collective ecosystem health compared to conventional grazing in which cattle graze the entire pasture at once. So that research is going to be happening at the University of Guelph. According to Restaurants Brand CEO Josh Kobza, plant-based options are not currently a significant focus for the company. This is tying to the Burger King brand, okay? Story in the Wall Street Journal. However, he did acknowledge that there is a stable demand for such products. Kobza also mentioned that plant-based options are more popular and in higher demand internationally, particularly in Western Europe. This decision from Burger King comes amid challenges faced by producers of plant-based meat substitutes. Companies like Beyond Meat have provided pessimistic outlooks, and Archer Daniels Midland has warned of ongoing softness in demand and inventory reductions in the plant-based protein market, which is expected to persist in 2024. And a lot of this is tied to the economy. And when the economy was roaring, people are willing to pay more for something like plant proteins. When the economy is not ideal, then we end up here where we were at. It doesn't mean there's not a future for plant proteins. It's just not the hockey stick that some during the pandemic were trying to make it out to be. And it's kind of a reality check. And farmers grow plant protein too. So this isn't like sometimes we think this is anti-agriculture. No, like lentils and chickpeas, the field peas, they have a place with plant proteins. So we want plant proteins to have success. And, I think it's all a part of that protein pie, so to speak. It's just not going to eliminate people's desire to eat real meat. Okay. Also, another topic where people sort of predicted this hockey stick, and it's not happening. And once again, tied to economics, buyers looking to get a bargain on a new car might want to consider an electric vehicle. As sales growth has slowed for battery-powered models, automakers and dealers are slashing prices and piling on discounts to clear out unsold inventory. Again, same reasons. For consumers, such promotions can be a boon, helping to shrink the price difference between an EV and a traditional gasoline vehicle, but it is another sign that the once hot market for these models is losing its charge. People are also concerned about the lack of infrastructure for charging as well being a factor. If you have any feedback on today's show, you can send me an email, shaney@realagriculture.com. You can also find us across all the different social media platforms or call the RealAg feedback line, 855-776-6147. Thanks, everybody, for getting real and getting connected with RealAg Radio. Chat again tomorrow. Cheers, everybody.